Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Thank you and welcome to everyone that has joined us in this next episode of woodsmith traditions or traditions associated to woodsmithing. In the last episode, I talked a little bit about harvesting oil from nuts, grains and seeds, which was a common practice with blacksmiths and woodsmiths in the Indian subcontinent. So if you haven't seen that video, please have a look at that one. So we're continuing this whole series about the tradition and tradition around woodsmithing. For those who are new to my channel or new to the videos, this series is focused just on not on the forging of wood steel and things like this. I'll be making videos on that soon. Again, I am back in the workshop, as you can see. So we'll be doing some videos on wood steel and making wood steel and all those different things. But this is more about the tradition of woodsmithing because, as I said in the previous video, the traditions have been the majority of all traditions have been lost now, and I only know these traditions because I come from that lineage or that heritage, and obviously I'm a woodsmith. So I think it's time that I share some of these things. So that was the reason for this series of videos, and hopefully you guys find it enjoyable, right? So anyway, today's video is about how did woodsmiths in ancient times, how did they get paid? How did you pay a woodsmith? How did you pay your blacksmith? I thought this was an important topic because I was thinking about some of my own history as a child in the village in India with my grandfather, and I remember some of these things popping up. But I'll talk about that a little bit later. But yeah, there was a system. Woodsmiths had a little bit more to lose than a blacksmith, general blacksmith, for probably some obvious reasons, but I'll go into that as well in a bit. There was a system in India, in the Indian subcontinent, and probably a little bit outside India as well, called the Jajmani system. And the Jajmani system was a way to negotiate or plan transactions between particular craft groups or between craftspeople, or even a customer and a craftsperson. So the Jajmani system was built up of a structure where you would have a Jajman, which that title would be given to somebody who has who's well established, who's financially stable, or is a landowner of some sort, or is a noble person, somebody of some reasonable high status. And it probably makes sense if I explain what Jajman is in English. A Jajmani system, or the Jajman, is like a patron. It's a patron, or probably a better way to explain it is a guarantor. He or she, probably he, would be the guarantor of a particular deal. And so that's the system. So back in ancient times, up until even quite recent, and I'll talk about that in a bit. In ancient times, you made payment in kind. So if you were a blacksmith and you somebody wanted your services, say a farmer of some sort, they'd pay you maybe with grain, a particular amount of grain or something like this, or from the harvest, or they would say, right, I need these plows fixed. So maybe it's a monsoon season, right? And you're preparing things for before you start the next cycle of kind of farming, and the farmer needs certain tools being made, and say a plow or something, or there's sickles. And my grandfather used to make a lot of sickles for these farmers, right? So a lot of these farmers, especially in the village setting, there was no money. A lot of people a huge amount of people didn't use money, right? Didn't have access to the coins of the state, or if they did, it was left for certain things. Especially in ancient times, some of these coins was gold and silver, so they'd be used in other ways. They'd be used as a material instead of actually being used always as currency. So if this farmer needs these sickles made, or if they need these tools made in time for sowing the fields or whatever, they may not have the money to hand, or they may not have the goods to hand to pay the blacksmith. So the Jajmani would guarantee that. The Jajmani would say, okay, you know what, I understand the deal, I'll keep a note of it, and this particular farmer will owe you so many sacks of grain for payment for this particular pieces of work that you're going to be doing. But you won't be paid until 6-7 months later, once the harvests are in. So that's where the Jajmani, that's probably a really basic way to understand the Jajmani system. It's probably a little bit more complex than that, but because there's different craftspeople, and the Jajmani system, this kind of trading system was not consistent throughout the whole of India. For example, in southern India or in other parts of India, dependent on your background or culture or religion, sometimes caste was at play. So certain castes wouldn't even deal with certain people. Like, you know what, I'm not even going to talk to that guy. I'm going to get the Jajmani to get involved and get this done stuff, because I'm more superior than these people, right? So it'd be sometimes a bit of a tense situation for some craftspeople, because there was this caste system throughout India. In northern India, not so much so. I mean, I from my ancestry and the stuff that I've been taught and what I've seen with my own eyes, and I was going to mention this anyway, was that in the Sikh faith, we see equality, right? We don't technically believe in caste. Now, there might be people out there who might be a little bit confused about things, but as a Sikh, we don't see people as castes. But what we do see is, am I going to get paid? And that's how the Jajmani system worked in northern India, in North Punjab, in India. Sorry, in Punjab, where my ancestry was from. So it wasn't about who was paying you, or what the status of that person was, or what the social status of that person was, or what that person's caste was. It was more about to ensure that you're actually going to get paid in a couple of months' time, or you're going to have to wait for your money. It wasn't just a direct transaction. Here's your money, done, here's your goods, go. It wasn't like that. You would have to wait. So almost like a layaway scheme, if you want to call it that. And I remember when I was a child, I used to go to, I'm late 40s now, but I remember the 80s when I was in my teens, and I remember going to India, and I used to be in the village when my grandfather was around, and most of the work these smiths would be agricultural, because most of the work that most of the business that be coming in would be agricultural, related to agriculture. And I remember seeing these silos, these big, huge silos in the house, in the farmhouse, and I used to ask my mother, well, what's in these things, you know, like why I've got these massive steel silos, you know. And my grandfather had made these things, folded these things together and put them together. And my mother used to say, well, they used to be full of grain. You know, we used to get paid in grain by different people. And I remember speaking to my mother telling me a story about when she was a child, that these silos, and they're kind of really heavy duty silos, have been around probably by then, probably 50 years or something, 60 years. My mother used to say to me that the grains, they would be full of grain, you know, corn and wheat and sometimes rice or pulses, because that's how they'd pay my grandfather, right? So that was there's an example there, an actual a real life world example of the Jajmani system at play, right? That somebody's come in want some work done, and they'd pay in kind, right? And you'd negotiate that. And that's how it worked, right? So it wasn't always plain sailing. Like, as I mentioned, there was issues between caste or groups of people, and I've never seen that. I've never experienced that, so I can't really comment too much on that. And nobody really knows where the system came from. It's really important to explain this as well. So the Jajmani system has been around for centuries. It's been around for as far as civilization in India can remember, probably. There was a guy called William something, anthropologist, who did some research into it around the 1830s, 1840s maybe. I'll share the link if I remember his name and the stuff he wrote about it is available. I'll try and share that. But it's been around for centuries, this whole system, and nobody really knows where it's come from. There is some speculation that it's related to the caste system, but the caste system has changed because I'm not talking about now. I'm totally against the caste system, but throughout the ages, the caste system changed through, the Islamic influence in India, and then the pre-Islamic influence of India as well. Things were very, very different in India. But I think the general consensus is that this system was around for a long, long time, and most likely it was to do with castes or caste system. I personally believe it was just a way for people to ensure payment. Even if you were casteless or you weren't part of this society, right? And I can imagine being in that position now, that if my neighbor wants me to do, and this happens, right? I'm at the workshop now, and sometimes my neighbor needs me to fabricate or forge something for them or repair something. I'll do it for free, right? I don't expect any payment, and they'll probably do me a favor back, right? So you can think of it like for a favor or a goods for goods kind of transaction, right? Now, how does this relate to woodsmithing, right? A woodsmith. You guys are probably wondering, right? As we've gone so far into the video, and you probably wondering what's it got to do with woodsmiths, right? So the woodsmiths had a bigger challenge, right? Now, the blacksmith was making mostly agricultural tools. I'm not saying woodsmiths didn't; they did. Just like I make woods, but I do other things as well, right? But the woodsmiths had to deal with a particular group of customers that the blacksmiths didn't have to deal with, and that was warriors, warlords, chieftains, khans, sardars, whatever you want to call them, generals, right? And the odd dodgy character as well, right? So maybe the traveller, sometimes even thieves and people. Dacoits or dakus as we call them, they would visit woodsmiths or smiths and try and take advantage, right? Now, so the woodsmith had this unique challenge that the blacksmiths didn't, right? So this woodsmiths are getting visited by these dangerous people, lethal in their trade. Their trade is war, combat, warfare, martial arts, swordsmanship, whatever you want to call it. They're trained, and that's their business, that's their profession. Your profession is making steel or forging steel or making particular weaponry. And if you were a woodsmith, most likely it would have been weaponry. And so there's a saying that comes to my mind, right, which is probably worth sharing, a quote. I'm not sure if it's Japanese or there's a quote that never sharpen a blade where there's windows. Right, something like that. It goes like that. I can't remember exactly, but in my workshop, funny enough, I don't have any windows and the doors are shut. And what's meant by that is it tracks a particular group of customers, a particular group of people to your door, and those people can be extremely dangerous, right? So, woodsmith has to deal with these warriors coming in, asking for particular blades to be commissioned, what's stopping that warrior? What is stopping that warrior or this particular customer of this profession cutting you down, taking the sword and walking away with it? What's stopping that particular trader who's cutting you down and taking your wood steel, taking your ingots, taking your billets, right? There's absolutely nothing if you think about it, right? So the woodsmithing tradition, it's not very well known, and for obvious reasons, right? I wouldn't be making these videos if it was well known. it's not very well known that the woodsmiths had to train in martial combat. It was very common that it was expected that you were able to defend yourself. And if you weren't able to defend yourself, you were at the risk of being robbed, threatened, blackmailed, or whatever you want to call it, right? So, we have to deal with those types of customers, right? So if I had a knock on the door right now, and some guy walks in and says, "Jin, can you make this for me?" I'm like, "Yeah, I can make it for you, no problem. I want it out of wood steel. I want it like this. I want it like this." So I'm going to put a lot of investment into that particular piece, right? So my first point of call, if this was the ancient times, I'd be asking the Jajmani to come in and come to my workshop and to broker this deal, to be a guarantor, and to ensure my safety, the safety of my trade, and ensure that the warrior's requirements, or the person who's commissioning this particular weapon, is their requirements are clear, so there will be no mix-up when it comes to payment time. Now, the only thing I will say around the other difference is that a warrior probably would pay with gold and silver, and sometimes there was times where warriors might even bring the steel themselves, right? So sometimes forging somebody else's steel might have been quite challenging for a woodsmith, because you're forging a composition of steel that you might be not used to, and that's another thing altogether. But there could be failure rates in that particular forging of steel. So there's an opportunity. There's an opportunity to piss off the warrior, to really piss him off, and maybe cause a kickoff, maybe cause a confrontation, right? So yes, the opportunity was there to bring the Jajmani into and use the Jajmani system to do a dealing with a warrior of some sort. But there was no guarantee, because the warrior could just cut down the Jajmani and cut down you and walk away with your sword, right? So there was a tradition in the woodsmithing community, and the woodsmithing community is a community within the secular community. And the woodsmithing community has a lot more to lose, right? Because back in ancient times, and you might have read this, those who are interested in wood steel, you might have read and heard that wood steel was prized. It's a prized steel. It's very expensive to make, and it did take sometimes days to make this stuff. And it was worth its weight in gold, right? So if it's worth its weight in gold, it's like robbing the bank, right? But it's easier, because you've just got a couple of smiths, or a small smithing family. I'm not talking about the royal workshops. If there's going to be documents and accounts of the royal workshops, or workshops linked to the Rajputs, the Sikh kingdoms, the Mughals, the Persians, if you're some sort of ruler, you might have your own workshop. You can afford having your own workshop and your own craftspeople, and they're in contained workshops or karkhane. But most woodsmiths were independents. They would be making the steel and selling it, or buying the steel and forging it, or doing both. So you had to protect your income, you had to protect your profession, your trade. If you didn't, you'd be dead, or your family would be on the streets, right? So yeah, that probably gives you a bit of an insight, and something that some of you guys probably never really thought about. But woodsmiths were trained in combat, and they were trained in using the sword. So the swords that they would make, they would train with swords, and they would train with weaponry, and be able to defend their craft, because their craft was so unique that it attracted these types of people. So if you had somebody at the door giving you shit, you were able to give shit back, right? So and worst case scenario, defend your family against a guy wielding a weapon, right? So yeah, Jajmani system still applies to a woodsmith, but it applies in some unique ways, right? In most of the times, you couldn't just rely on the Jajmani system, because things could go south really quickly. Another story that comes to my mind, which I think is worth sharing with you guys, is I remember in the 80s, I was in India, and I was sleeping, and early hours of the morning, we hear banging on the door, and it's probably around 1 a.m. in the morning to 1:30 a.m., something like that. And we're in this banging. I get up, my mother gets up as well, and we're all there on a holiday in India, right? And we hear these two guys are at the door, and they're asking for my cousin, who was the main apprentice to my grandfather. So I wasn't the main apprentice, my cousin was the main apprentice. And I hear something that's going on. I'm quite young at the time. And some time goes by, and the two guys who've come have gone to one side. They've been offered some food, and they're in a dark corner of the property. And my grandfather has started the forge, and he's quite old by now. And my cousin have started the forge, and they're forging these. They've been given some steel by these two guys to make a particular type of weapon. And I'm not going to talk about what type of weapon it was. And the 80s were a crazy time, and in India especially. And this particular thing was forged out and made, and it had to be done by the next day. So it was, they probably started around 2 o'clock, probably 2 a.m. in the morning, and everything was finished, and it had to be finished before dawn. And before dawn, they had their stuff sorted, and they were out, they were gone. So that gives you a bit of an idea of sometimes, and this is a very, very unique situation in modern day, like 80s, that's all modern times, right? That people would come, give you some steel to make particular things, right? So, and so it gives you a bit of an idea that the same things would have happened in ancient times as well, right? So you had to be ready, and anything could have kicked off. And I'll stop on this point, right? This is a good point, and I'll maybe make another video about this, but I'll touch upon it now, because now I've mentioned my grandfather was forging before dawn. There's a tradition in woodsmithing and in some blacksmiths in India that you forge before dawn. You don't forge during the day if you can avoid it. Usually the tradition was that you would forge before dawn. Regardless of two guys coming to your door and asking you to make something, or a warrior coming to make you a sword, right? Say, here, make this sword. I'm going to battle in 2 days. I need this sword made, right? The tradition was that you would forge before dawn, because blacksmiths in India would work in the dark. India was a hot place, and just like blacksmiths here, in the term blacksmith, they usually wouldn't forge in the enclosed area. They'd forge outside in the open. My grandfather did the same, so they would forge in the dark before dawn, while it's a bit cooler. They can see the colors of the steel, of the metal, and the likelihood of mistakes is reduced, and some secretive techniques or things they were forging could be kept away from nosy people or prying eyes. So I just want to mention that, because I think that was quite important to mention. So yeah, okay. So you've got a good explanation there, I think, of the Jajmani system. I encourage you guys to Google about it and do some research online and learn more about it. Don't take it for face value, because that system was varied across the whole of India. Different religions, different people, different groups, different ethnic classes, different social classes. But the system was roughly based on what I've explained, okay? So yeah, I think we'll end the video there. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll be making some more videos. I know this one took a little bit longer to make before after the last one I did. I'm still trying to find my feet with these videos and things like that. But Maharaj Kirpa Kare, hopefully, God willing, I will make some more videos. If he wills it, I'll make some more. So, but thank you for everybody who's watching the video. Please support, please like and share and subscribe and all those different things. And I'll see you in the next one. Thank you very much. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.